Hello everyone, I'm back, and this time I have a little bit of a story to share with you. A teaching story. This actually happened on my last performance a couple of days ago of Verdi Requiem. This was my 8th performance of Verdi Requiem, and if you've ever sung the Verdi Requiem, you know that 8 performances is a little bit too much. There was very little rest between performances, and I also had to do some concerts here and there outside the performances. But let's just say that the final show of Verdi Requiem, I had an epiphany. And if this little story doesn't kind of show you that we're never masters of the voice, we're constantly teaching ourselves and learning, well then I don't know what will, because this was definitely a teaching moment for myself. So on my final performance of Verdi Requiem, I have to say, I was a little bit tired. I had just sung a concert not too long ago, and this was gonna be the 8th show, and I had sung all the other Verdi Requiems quite also like back to back quite recently. And so the voice wasn't exhausted, but it wasn't fresh. And as you know, the biggest thing for tenors for Verdi Requiem is the pesky aria In Gemisco. For the most part, the aria is fun. It's not too difficult. It's those pain in the butts B flats. Why are those B flats so difficult? Well, because they ascend from the bottom of the voice right through the passaggio, blooming into the top with a big fortissimo where the orchestra comes in. And it's this big declamatory B flat. And so I had realized that the first couple of shows, it was fine. I didn't have a problem. But the second half of the show, I started feeling like I was putting a little bit too much effort, right? The aria was costing me a little bit too much. And because of that, the B flats suffered. And so in my last show, since I was already kind of tired, I told myself, just relax. And boom, the epiphany moment happened. And if I have to title this epiphany moment, I would call it go through the process, not the result. So what do I mean by going through the process and not the result? This would be going for the result. So is it cool and exciting? Maybe a little bit. Is it a little bit wild? Yeah, it is wild. It's hard to control. And maybe it comes out once, maybe twice, but that's kind of lucky. There's no process there. It's just going, kind of singing the first couple of notes and then just shooting up, hoping by luck and praying that you can kind of sing. And the chords are banged together because you're just kind of trying to just sing this B flat with no process, no support, not going through everything that we talked about in the videos. And I realized that I was doing a little bit of that. I realized that in the last couple shows, as I was ascending, that phrase, and even the final phrase, I realized that in both phrases, I was just kind of gunning it. And I'm like, why am I doing that? And this is why having someone that you can trust that has a really good pair of ears, as well as having a great mind to body connection, this is where it pays off. Because sometimes, especially in a run of 8 performances, 12, 14, 16 performances, we start to build bad habits and we don't realize it because the bad habits kind of creep in gradually. And this was a bad habit that was creeping into me. Now, I didn't have a pair of outside ears, but I did record every performance outside, just the audio. I just put my phone on the side. And at the end of the performance, I could listen back and see what went wrong. Why didn't it feel great when I sung it like this? And I started realizing as I heard show after show after show from my recordings that I was starting to gun it. I wasn't just gunning and pushing and just kind of going for the result. I was also overbearing the sound with too much chest because I wanted it to sound Verdian and big and forte. Don't get me wrong. Those phrases need to have that quality and color of the sound. It wouldn't be proper to sing it dolce or piano. Verdi definitely wants a big declamatory B flat there. But if you think big, strong, more volume, the result is going to be forced, banging your chords together, no appoggio, no process. So my epiphany moment happened when I was so exhausted that day that I said, I'm not going to give more than I should. I want to be able to sing today in a very relaxed manner, and I want to walk out of today's performance still feeling fresh. So as I started in Gemisco and I approached this first B flat, I fought the instinct to do what I was doing earlier. which is to ascend through the passaggio in a hefty manner and then just blow or gun it or force or go straight for that B flat with just strength. And I decided to go through the process. And I realized that the first 4 notes, I was in quite a head dominant position already. And in all the performances, I've sung those first 4 notes in the same manner. I built this beautiful open space head dominant position. So the preparation is there. But now as the high note comes in, right, the money note, I abandoned all my preparation. I abandoned it completely, all that beautiful space, that juicy head voice that was there, completely abandoned it and just chested the top completely. So I told myself that performance, what if in just abandoning that position and going for the result, I continued the process that I had already built in those 4 notes. And the approach to the B flat was more gentle, just more gentle, so that you could then control it, so that it becomes more yieldable, so that it doesn't feel overbearing or effortful or like you're lifting a weight already on the attack. Because you have to sustain that B flat and let it grow, not just sustain it, but let it grow for quite a lot of time. And if you're already stuck on the attack, if literally the first fraction of the second that you get in that high note, you're stuck, there's nowhere to go. If anything, sustaining that B flat is going to be painful because you're stuck. So I told myself, gentle approach and continue that journey of that beautiful space, head voice, and preparation that you created. And I'm gonna over-exaggerate it here so that you can hear it. So obviously I over-exaggerated so that you can hear. The approach to the high note was very much following this gentle, kind of just touching it. Touch the high note in a very head-dominant position still. It was still in a very, very head dominant position. And this was just for the attack. Remember, the attack lasts a fraction of a second. It's literally less than a second. It's just landing on the note and making sure that we are landing on it in a manner that we can control it and then be able to sustain it in a manner that it feels released, soothing, gentle, and most importantly, still spinning, having that diaphragm and that appoggio really be the motor that drives the sound. The other way was very much muscled. It was good preparation and then muscling to the high note. No. Continue that gentle approach. It's kind of like first land the plane and then let it take off. A lot of what we do, this sort of preparation as we ascend to the top of our register, I like to think about it like we're starting a spark. As we ascend, we're trying to start a little spark. Once the attack to the high note is there, and it's in this very gentle, head-dominant place, then a little fire has started. It's small, but still controllable. We haven't started a wildfire yet. It's small. Starting small. And from that, then we start to fuel the fire. We start to add branches and leaves and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. That's when we start gradually adding more chest to the sound, more engaged in the body, always still having that head dominant position, but we're gradually adding more sound and resonance and volume to it so that it becomes that exciting, forte, declamatory, Verdian sound. But you have to go through the process. You cannot just go for the result. And that was my epiphany moment, which was probably one of the best sung Injamiscos that I've done in the 8 performances. And it was on the one that I felt tired. But because I was tired, I allowed myself to just relax. Sometimes we feel fresh and we're like, all right, I'm fresh. I'm ready to go. I can gun it and get away with it. Sure, you can do it for a couple times, but then you'll pay the toll later. I told myself I'm never going to sing high notes any other way, because it was so free and easy. This idea of being gentle on the attack, just the attack, and then allowing it to grow as you sustain it, you're able to be as musical, as flexible, and do literally whatever you want with that note. Gentle on the attack. Me not gentle in the attack and just going for the result. One has a process and it's easy and reliable and consistent. The other is just praying and hoping that it sounds good. And if it does, it's just pure luck. So for those of you who have commented, and I've read your comments that say, Jose, I'm trying to ascend into my upper register, but the higher I go, the chestier it gets, the more effortful it gets, and I can't seem to find the head voice. I know I have the chest voice, I have a lot of the chest voice, that's why it feels weighty, but I can't find the head voice. Then I would tell you, if you're having similar problems where you feel like the higher you go, the more heavy it gets, the weightier it gets, I would say, do it the opposite. Don't go chest voice trying to find head. Go head voice and then try to attach the chest. Even if it means that right now you have to disconnect and sing in falsetto. That's completely disconnected in falsetto. But hey, that's a beautiful release sound. That doesn't mean I'm gonna go up in stage and sing it that way, but it means that this is a great reference point. This is a great point of entry or starting point to then develop this sound. And gradually, little by little, connect that sound to the full voice. Falsetto. A little bit of chest. A little bit more. That's it. And you'll realize that the connection is very tiny. You're going to realize that what you were probably doing before was way too much. The connection was way too much to the chest part of the voice. Too much. The connection is very thin. And the higher you ascend as a tenor, the thinner it gets. And it doesn't mean small and, lazy here. If anything, this is more engaged. This is free. This is all disconnected. And you can tune into the higher harmonics when singing in a much more released head dominant position, which in the theater is going to sound louder and more resonant than the other sound. That's not going to carry in the theater. And it's also so much healthier, so much more enjoyable. I was able to enjoy singing those B flats in my last performance. I was able to enjoy the whole performance. It wasn't like, oh God, here it comes. It was more like, yeah, wow, that was great. Let's do more type of thing. And the connection continues all the way as we ascend. That's why these exercises have to do with this cry, or this sigh, or this sort of puppy crying, are so integral to the development of the voice. And everybody that I talk to mention this in one way or another, because it allows you to continue to build the voice and ascend higher and higher into the range of the tenor in a relaxed manner, in a way that throws away unneeded weight and effort. And it allows the larynx to reset, to jump and come back down, jump and come back down. In other words, to be free. Sometimes more importantly than having a low larynx is actually having a free larynx. Especially if you're in the beginning steps of this, developing your voice, maybe having a low larynx is not the best approach, because right now what you're doing is perhaps compressing the larynx or trying to maintain the larynx in a low position in a muscular way. The larynx needs to be free. If it's not free, you're gonna sound effortful. You're gonna sound like you're stuck, because you literally are stuck. Your larynx is stuck from being able to vibrate. So all these exercises, very siren, very crying, very head dominant type of exercises, are ways to develop the voice in a very healthy way. Switch your mentality. Don't go for the result. Don't try to sound like the finished product just yet. Go through the process. That will help you arrive to the sound that you want 9 times out of 10. And if you go through the developmental process and not just want to sound like a professional opera singer right now, you're going to have a better progress. And most importantly, a singer that has a process and a technique, instead of just going for the result and gunning it, is a lot more consistent. And consistency wins the game. People are going to hire a consistent singer 9 times out of 10 from the singer who perhaps has a lot of naturally born potential and talent, but doesn't have a process or a technique. Build your technique, build the process, allow yourself to develop your voice in a healthy way. Don't be afraid of the falsetto and the head voice sound. Use it as a developing exercise. You're not gonna sing in stage with it, but you can use it as a tool to build the full voice. If you follow these tips, you're gonna be golden, I promise you. And the best part of all, you're gonna be able to enjoy your singing as you're doing it. It's gonna be enjoyable for you and the audience. So that was my epiphany moment, and I wanted to share it with you all. I thought it was a good way to answer some of the comments that I've seen regarding ascending into the higher range and doing so in a more easeful way. I was able to put it into practice, thankfully, during a performance, which was fantastic. And from now on, I myself are going to continue to keep training and practicing that in that manner. I've also loved and enjoyed doing these interviews with some other fellow tenors who are kicking butt in the professional field, who are doing it as we speak in some of the most known opera houses in the world. These guys are high level and all class. I hope that you're enjoying those interviews as well. And I wanted to ask if you guys enjoy these interviews to comment down below if you want the next ones to be live. I'm not yet familiar with this whole YouTube live stuff yet. I'm kind of finding out as I go, but I would love for it to be more interactive, in which I can have a guest and you guys can ask questions to the guest or to myself, and we can answer, and to be able to be of service to you guys who want the information and the knowledge, the community of confused tenors, I like to call it. But yeah, let me know if you like the interviews, if you would like it to be live, or if you absolutely hate the interviews and you don't want me to invite anybody ever again. You can comment that as well. Ciao, ciao for now. Hang in there, keep studying. The work continues.